So all of New England is rejoicing as the Patriots are once again, apparently, the Patriots. With their win Sunday, or Monday night rather, over the Giants. They are the only 11-win team in football as they go into their bye. 11-2, running away with the AFC East, and right now have the edge over the Broncos, who of course can get their 11th win this Sunday when the Patriots are on the bye. What do we make of the Patriots, though? And I want to be clear about what I'm about to say. You can only play your schedule, so you're not. You can't say I want to do things differently. Here's who we're playing. Here's how it all works out. So let's just take a look at the Patriots' schedule. Week 1 at home, they lost to the Raiders. Obviously, the Raiders. Everyone thinks they're good week 1. That's the beauty of the first few weeks of the season. Nobody knows how good they are, and more importantly, nobody knows how bad they are. So you always get, in my opinion anyway, the best of every team in September for the first 3-4 weeks of the season until people start realizing we're not very good. And that reality tends to set in. Okay, so they lose at home to the Raiders. They have an amazing come-from-behind win against the Dolphins, who are playing better now. They're playing much better now than they were earlier in the season. Then they lose to the Steelers, 21-14. So they're 1-2. And then, holy hell, the Patriots have gone on a run. They beat the Panthers big. Now that looks a little differently now with what we see of Carolina. Then the biggest win on their schedule, they went to Buffalo and won that one 23-20. Then they beat the Saints, the Titans, the Browns, and the Falcons. Not exactly the 1927 Yankees of quarterbacks, okay? And then they have their other big win. They went to Tampa Bay when Tampa Bay was rolling, and they beat them 28-23. Then they beat the Jets. Then they beat the Bengals without Joe Burrow, and they beat the Giants. So first of all, give them credit with what they're doing. Mike Vrabel should have been the coach last year when they got rid of Bill Belichick. They went with Maye. We can all agree that was a huge mistake. Vrabel is the best coaching tree product of Bill Belichick. I mean, all the other ones, Romy Cornell, Charlie Weiss, Josh McDaniel, they've all sort of flamed out when it came to winning as a head coach in the NFL. Mike Vrabel didn't coach under Bill Belichick, but he played under him, and he knows he learned more and figured out how to coach by playing under Bill than all these guys that coach with Bill. And he has perfected that and is doing an amazing job. Obviously, they have a great young quarterback in Drake Maye. But if we're being honest about it, do we really trust the New England Patriots when the Patriots are in the postseason? Do we really? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I know that they've done things, and Drake Maye, as a second-year starter, has ripped off wins, these 10 in a row, the likes of which only other great quarterbacks have done, whether it's Peyton Manning or Lamar Jackson in their second season, Dan Marino, John Elway. These are the kind of players that we're comparing Drake Maye to in terms of this winning streak that he's gone on in his second year as a starter. But to me, when I look at the Patriots in their final 4 games, they're on the bye this week. Then they get the Bills in Foxborough. Then they got to go to Baltimore. Then they finish up with the Jets and the Dolphins. Jets and Dolphins at that point will be complete U-Haul mode. So, you never know. I mean, like after 2019, the Dolphins went into Foxborough in Tom Brady's last year there and shocked the world, and they beat them, and that allowed Kansas City to get the 2 seed and also get a bye that year that they rode all the way to Super Bowl 54. They played all their games at home because the Titans lost as the number 1 seed to the the Ravens lost as the number 1 seed to the Tennessee Titans that year, and that allowed the AFC Championship game to go through Arrowhead. The point being, anything can happen. But to me, I really want to see the next 2 games for the New England Patriots are everything. You give them credit because they've beaten the 2 best teams on their schedule, right? So for all the critics, like I'm sort of being right now, that are saying it's been a cupcake schedule, and it's true. The 2 toughest teams they took care of. They went down to Tampa Bay when Baker Mayfield and company were rolling, a little banged up, won that one on the road. They went earlier in the season into Buffalo. That was the shocker. They went into Buffalo and took care of Josh Allen, and the Bills almost never lose at home. Almost never lose at home. And they took care of that. So while this schedule is not great, and they've played a lot of Tyler Shucks and Joe Flacco's or Dylan Gabriel's or, rookie quarterbacks and, Justin Fields, all this kind of stuff. They haven't had a murderer's row, right? But they have the 2 signature wins over the 2 toughest teams that they faced, Tampa Bay and Buffalo. The next 2 games, I think, will determine how real we think the Patriots are. Because the Bills, if they want to win that division again, yet again, they have to find a way to win that game and see if the Patriots can slip up somewhere else down the stretch. And the only other place they may slip up is that road game in Baltimore. So those 2 games, the next 2 games for the New England Patriots, to me, will determine how I feel about them and how realistic I think their chances are in the playoffs when you're looking at teams like the Denver Broncos, who dominate the line of scrimmage and also have a great second-year quarterback in Bo Nix. When you look at people like Justin Herbert and the Chargers, even though he's dealing with a broken hand. Some of these other teams, the way the Jacksonville Jaguars have been playing. We've talked about the Colts. I don't know how good the Colts' prognosis is down the stretch with who they have to play and how banged up they are. So the other part of this that really feeds into the New England sort of hype train here is there really is no super team in the AFC. There is no dominant force like Kansas City has been the last 7 seasons. They've been to the AFC Championship game every year, and you knew that they were going to find a way to get it done. That is not the Kansas City Chiefs we've seen this year, obviously, as they're at 500 and have really basically have to win out to make the postseason starting this Sunday night against the Houston Texans. Texans have a great defense. They've sort of been very uneven on offense. So the thing that might really help New England when they get into the playoffs is that there isn't this mammoth Goliath team that they have to slay. Denver is probably the most complete team in the AFC because they dominate the line of scrimmage on offense and defense. They give up very few sacks. They take away the ball a bunch with their front 7. They have an exotic blitz package that can create a lot of havoc. So the thing about the Patriots, they've taken care of their business. They've done what they've had to do. Those 2 big wins are the most interesting ones. But the next 2 games will determine how we feel about New England. If they sweep Buffalo, season's over for the Bills. They're a wild card team, okay? They're not getting that division. Buffalo wins that game, suddenly everything's in play, and then that game next week, the week after the Bills-Patriots game, where they have to go to Baltimore, who suddenly might have a very realistic chance of winning that division with what we've seen out of Pittsburgh and the problems that they're having. That's going to be the interesting game for me. The next 2 games will determine my level of confidence about the New England Patriots going forward. If they take care of business in both those games, hey man, they are who they are. They've proved it. They've had 4 tough games. They've won them all. Kudos to Mike Vrabel. Kudos to Drake Maye. Kudos to everybody. They're getting it done. But if they slip at home against Buffalo, and then maybe they run into a buzzsaw in Baltimore who realizes their backs are against the wall, and the only way they're probably getting into the playoffs is by winning that division, then we've got something. And then you're going to have a lot of questions. The one thing we can say for certain is they've played their schedule and they've beaten the teams they're supposed to beat if you want to be taken seriously. The win at Tampa and the win in Buffalo. The next 2 games are everything for the New England Patriots. If they win both of those games, you got to say they are who they are. They stumble a little bit here, you can pull into question what we really think is happening this year. Either way, it's been a remarkable turnaround. Suddenly the Patriots are relevant again. I mean, people forget how bad it was the last couple of years when Cam Newton was there, and then Mac Jones had the one wild card year, and that all fell apart. Bill Belichick coaching, he's trying to put Matt Patricia and run the offense. Don't quite understand what that was all about. It has been a mess, and Patriots fans were used to such a high standard. So obviously they're reveling in this thing again. But again, the next 2 games, determine the confidence factor most of us will feel about the Patriots going into the postseason. They take care of Buffalo, they win in Baltimore. You got to say they're as legit as any other team in the AFC right now because there isn't a super team. They stumble down this stretch, you can begin to have real questions about how valid a lot of those wins are considering the quarterbacks they had to play. Everything is on the line for the Patriots the next 2 weeks. We'll feel great about them, or we'll do one of those things, see, I wasn't so sure, depending on what happens when they bring in Buffalo and then they go to Baltimore. And those are straight facts, homie.